How about that hype around the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight? Promised to be a clash of the ages, a 58-year-old boxing legend going toe-to-toe with a 27-year-old internet sensation. But shortly after the punches started flying, it felt more like a staged sparring match for a quick payday. Now, I stayed up late expecting a real fight. Got my wife to do so as well, but instead, just got disappointment. And I'm not alone. See, here's the thing. Entrepreneurs, they're running their businesses the same way. It's overhyped, underdelivered. They're designed to extract as much value as possible without giving anything meaningful back. But today I'm going to show you the marketing strategy that should be banned, and why doing the opposite is the only way to actually build a thriving and a lasting business. So that Tyson fight, there was so much hype around it. And when I first saw it, I thought, well, this is not going to be a good fight originally. But there's a lot of hype. Showed a lot of training videos of Mike Tyson training. Now I believe he was probably got a little injured right before the fight. And they already had to postpone it once. So there may have been some of that. But regardless, the way the actual fight occurred, it wasn't fun to watch at all. The first 30 seconds or so were when Mike came out. He rocked Jake with that punch. I think he kind of caught Jake a little bit off guard. I don't think he was expecting as much power that went behind it. And I think from that point forward, Tyson actually pulled back. And of course, then it's just a long endurance to go those 8 rounds, even though they were 2-minute rounds. So either way, the actual fight itself wasn't that great. Fortunately, the ladies' fight was really good. I enjoyed watching that one. It's crazy. Of course, I thought the decision on that one was wrong. So I think Serena should have won that one versus Taylor, but whatever. Now, I'm not a massive boxing fan. I don't really watch boxing. I haven't really watched boxing since Tyson was in his prime, and seeing bits of stuff back in the 80s and mainly the 80s on VHS tapes that were recorded, things of that nature. But so I was more or less watching it for Tyson to see his comeback and see what he could actually do to Jake. But the hype itself is what overshadowed the whole thing. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, there's a lot of money made. I think there's a $20 million payout. Seemed like maybe to Tyson, and obviously Jake Paul with the whole MVP, the promotions company that him and the other fella are running. Obviously, they made bukus of money. Netflix probably got some more subscribers. Again, fortunately for me, I already subscribed to Netflix, so it wasn't like the outlay of money, but it was outlay of time. And of course, being on the East Coast, the fight didn't even start till midnight. And so, either way, that combination just made for a lackluster experience all the way around. But what it reminded me of was the amount of hype that marketers typically put in, along with entrepreneurs. And it's like, hey, I can give you these results. And then you go and you buy their course, you take the program, and the end result isn't that was all cracked up to be. Not necessarily that it was a scam, but just that the marketing in front of the thing was a lot more polished than the actual course. The selling part had a lot more energy put into it than the actual product. Now, I can sympathize with that a little bit just from being on the standpoint of building something that I thought was fantastic and nobody really knew about it, right? So it's not one of these things you can just put all your effort into the product and not do any marketing for the most part. Of course, there's some exceptions to that. You have companies like Tesla, right, who sell a tremendous amount of cars, and it's because they've spent so much time making the product really, really good. Okay, so there are exceptions to that. There was a text editor for software developers, or others as well, but mainly software developers used it, called Sublime Text. I never actually utilized it, but it made a lot of money for the developer because it was really good, the developer that made it. because it was really good and there wasn't a whole lot of marketing done, just people talked about it. So there's definitely the case that, hey, just create the great product and you don't need to work on marketing and selling. But the vast majority of times that's just not true. Even if you make something fantastic, most people are just not going to know about it. Okay, but then you have the other extreme, the extreme that I'm agitated about, and that's the marketing side, doing all this marketing, doing all this publicity, and the actual value you get out of it isn't there. And it appears like it was just a value extraction process versus a way to provide value. Again, I'm sure the initial thinking was going to provide value, and then when it's all said and done, it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's a 58-year-old. Do you really think he's going to be able to pull it out at 58 against a 27-year-old? And almost like shifting the blame to the person that, bought the product at that point. Well, you just didn't put enough effort. You aren't ready yet, or whatever the case is. It's like, well, but you did this presentation, the hype, the build up to it, to try to sell as many as you could, saying that this product could do what you said this product would likely give these results. Even though you can't really say that, and people don't actually say that because there's rules and regulations. It's against the law to actually say, "Hey, this is what's going to occur," which is understandable. But even reasonable people who put forth the work, put forth the effort, aren't truly at the place to get the benefit of the program. So you have a program, and it's like, "Hey, because of what I've learned, I've made this much money. Because of what I've taught my students, they've made up this much money." But usually that is because the student was already at a certain level that the most people that's being marketed to is not, right? Because you can't just market to people at that higher level because there's not as many of them. Okay, so the strategy is to market to all the people using these top performers as examples, with the caveat of saying, your mileage may vary, right? Back when I was doing a lot of stuff with NFTs a couple years ago, there was one project I really liked, and I bought a lot of, and I still like the project. I think the project's good, but there's a lot of projects that were in the NFT space, and these founders, I didn't buy the vast majority of them because it was very obvious to me that it was cash grabs. And there were a couple that I did grab that were also cash grabs, but it wasn't super obvious to me that they were cash grabs. There's straight up scams again, where the founder of that project was just trying to extract as much money out of their fans and their audience as possible, and not really desiring or having any plan to create any value. What has to happen is, as a successful entrepreneur, you have to go the opposite approach. Yes, marketing is needed. Yes, you need to do sales as well once the marketing occurs. But you have to actually provide the value on what you're saying in your marketing and what you actually say in your sales calls. If you don't provide that value, you may bring in a bunch of money in the short term, but you're going to lose your audience. Worst case is people are going to badmouth you and be labeled as a scam, and you won't get any additional, funds coming in. So I guess if you are going that approach, is make it big enough that you won't need another payday. But the better approach is to actually provide value up front. So be of service to your audience, to your customers, to your prospects. So the way I like to approach it is I am actually giving away tons of value, or at least I think I am, tons of value in these YouTube videos, showing how to double revenue, show how to work half the time, and not charging anything for this. Okay? Giving away that value by proving I can help people by actually helping them. I have conversations with folks. helping them the best way I can based off their scenario, giving advice, but also listening and asking questions that will also get them to kind of think about things in a different way. Okay? So I don't need any money right now. So I have well over $1 million in liquid assets, and so like I don't need any money to live off of. I don't need this to work, and I don't need like for you to send me money. Right? That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to try and provide value because I was stuck for decades working entirely too hard. It was just, I made my life difficult and I didn't need to. I made my wife's life difficult and I didn't need to. But I didn't understand some things at the time. I didn't have the right mindset. And I'll link to a video at the end of this talking about mindset. But I didn't have the right mindset was part of the thing. I didn't charge enough was part of the issue. And I definitely didn't do any kind of delegation. I was always trying to do everything by myself. And I don't want others to fall in that same trap. So that's why I create these videos here on YouTube. I'm doing it to hopefully make a difference in somebody's life. So I have a book that I'm writing, and I plan on selling that book. Right? I have a challenge that I run, and I charge for that challenge. So I do have products. I do have things that I'll offer for sale. But I also try to provide way more value for free in comparison. The volume of value I'm trying to provide is for free. Right? And hopefully from that, people will say, wow, this value was provided. Now I want to check out the challenge. I want to read his book, right? Maybe join a program later. So the point is, provide value first. Provide value first. Don't extract value first, right? If all of the work is done on the promotion side, the marketing side, and not as much on the actual product and the fulfillment side, then there's a problem. But again, this is why I like the mode of giving things away on YouTube. This is like my community service. My business coach, Myron Golden, he talks about his community service all the time being his YouTube videos. And it resonated with me because that's exactly right. It's like, prove to people you can help them by actually helping them. That's what Frank Kern says, and makes sense to me. So the key is to think long term. You need to prioritize your long-term time horizon over real quick wins. I'm not saying you can't get quick wins, because you definitely can, and not everything takes a long amount of time. But the focus should always be on providing value to your clients, not just trying to make a quick buck. Because by doing that, your audience becomes loyal advocates. It leads to organic growth via word of mouth. It creates a reputation of integrity, and that is a competitive advantage in crowded markets. So avoid the temptation of quick cash grabs, and instead focus on building a business that your audience can actually believe in, and they'll stick with you for the long haul. So here's the bottom line. Hype without substance might get attention, and quick extraction strategies might get you a payday, but neither of them will build trust and loyalty that your business actually needs to thrive for the long term. So the real key is to shift your focus to providing value first. When you're helping others, you're building a foundation of trust that leads to long-term growth, not just for your business, but for everyone that you actually serve. So if this resonated with you, I have a video that you might want to watch. It's called The Mindset Shift that takes you from surviving to thriving. And it's all about moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, so that you can lay the foundation for serving others and actually trusting the process for a long-term growth. So click here and watch it now.